and welcome back to a brand new episode of 343. My name is AF. This is where we speak about football in general. And at the moment, we have the Club World Cup going on. It is silly season, so the transfer news is going crazy every single day on any single social media platform. Today, I am joined by Ziad, my trusted co-host. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, man. As you can see, I'm coming to you live from a full stadium, unlike some of the stadiums at the Club World Cup.
Yeah, I think Damon will have a bit to say about that. And on that note, good segue. Damon, welcome back to the channel. It's
Oh,
a
thank
pleasure
you.
to have you back, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Whenever you have an opportunity to throw in some US footy into the mix, you know who to call.
Let's go, Gold Cup.
Oh, God.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not going to drag this intro out too long. We're going to try to head up the show up as quick as we can. But we are going to start with some transfer news. And Damon, I'm going to be throwing the ball straight back to you because we have Jamie Gittens, who's been in the news for the past couple of weeks. First, he was linked with Chelsea. And now Bayern Munich are pretty much interested in him as well. We saw Leroy Sané head off to Turkey, so they are in the market for a new winger. What can you tell us about Jamie Gittens?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds more like he'll probably go back to Chelsea. I don't think Bayern's really going to be seriously in the mix here, thankfully, just because there's that weird stigma with Dortmund players going over to Bayern, even though outside of Rafael Guerrero, who left on a free, that hasn't happened in a while. Like a long time that really hasn't happened. But there's always still just like some sort of stigma there, which is, it is what it is. Gittens is a solid player. He's a left winger. He's very good coming down the left side, putting on his right foot. And that's what he's best at. It's just more of a consistency thing with him. Sometimes he'll get into a groove where it feels like he's scoring or assisting, getting a goal contribution in, like almost a game every week for like 3-4 weeks. And then he's just off on the moon for like a whole month. And like, what happened to this guy? And that's part of just Borussia Dortmund in general, where you have a lot of wingers with like him and Adeyemi and whoever else is just kind of like falls into the mix. When you have a lot of players at your disposal there, if someone kind of falls out of form, you throw someone else into the mix. And he's been one of the better ones. He's been one of the more consistent ones. Him and Karim kind of became like the two lead guys in the winger position for Borussia Dortmund. So he's solid. I'd say like 40 is a decent price for him. I wouldn't go any higher than that if I was anyone else, just because of the consistency factor. And if he is going to the Prem, which sounds more likely, and that would make so much more sense for him. He's an English boy. He's going to want to go back to England. There's a big trend there just in general. It just makes sense. It's a much more physical league. And I'd be interested to see how he does in the Premier League, especially like Chelsea too. Like that's it's one of those clubs. Sorry if I'd have to throw United in there as well. That it's like you go to a club like that and it's like good luck,
Yeah, it's giving shades of Sancho to me. It's like
sure.
Coming from England to Dortmund, going back to England, and I mean the asset list would be like, is he strong enough? Is he quick enough to be able to handle the league? You and we spoke earlier today about the change in pace in the Serie A. So I mean, going from Bundesliga to the Premier League as well, the ease the shift, and I mean your skill level gets tested.
Yeah, I mean there is, and I think it would be more of like a Sancho light in this case. Jadon Sancho is a much better player at Borussia Dortmund than Jamie Gittens had been. Gittens really has only had one very good season, and last season I wouldn't even say it's like a very good season. It was a pretty good season. He had just like 8 goals in league play, a few assists. I was really hoping to see like a more of a breakout year, but the team as a whole was like really shaky throughout the entire season. It wasn't until the second half when the club really like found their footing and Guirassy was able to get going. So we'll see about Gittens. He's going wherever he goes. I assume it will be Chelsea. I assume it'll be a Premier League team. I would be stunned if it's Bayern Munich, although they are in the market for a winger. I would just be surprised if Dortmund would sell to him.
Do you think Dortmund has anybody up their sleeve? Because I mean, last season, or I think it was in January when you guys lost Donny Malen. So those are two wingers you guys will lose in the space of 6 months. Are there sort of contingencies in place for those wide positions?
There's always someone on the market. You'll find someone. You'll find someone at, maybe a mid to lower tier Bundesliga club. There's always someone in the academy as well. Speaking of the academy, like sometimes they just don't pan out. Yusuf Moukoko sounds like he's going for like only 5 million. And he was a guy that going back to like 2017 when he was just like a 15-year-old in the academy who's scoring 50 goals a year. I'm not exaggerating on that number. And I was like so high on him. And he come up to the the pro levels and just flamed out, and it didn't work. So sometimes that happens. So we'll see. It feels like with Dortmund when it comes into the attacking three, there's always someone.
That's fair. Siad, any comments before we move on to the next one?
I mean, I think it's one of those marketing things with the agent where they putting Bayern in the mix, and it just maybe drives up a little agency fee, signing on fee, a bit extra wages or whatever the case is, and ultimately he's going to go to Chelsea. So, yeah.
We have Cal in the chat saying if Dortmund have proven anything over the years that they're capable of unearthing gems to replace the big names heading out the door. And
but it's been a while since they've really done that proper. I mean, like you get your occasionals, but it hasn't really come deep from like an academy level on a hot minute. A lot of them has just been like bigger transfers, like a Jude, an Erling Haaland, Job now.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool. I think we can wrap that one up, but it's one to definitely keep an eye on. Next one, Ziad, your club, Arsenal. This deal accelerated pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I like the deal. Just a bit of depth with Jorginho and Thomas Partey heading out. Most likely, I don't think Partey signs. Talks have stalled with him, but I'm actually happy to move on. Obviously, I always talk about the contract season, and I think he had that last season. Also, quite full season uninjured almost. So I think it's time to move on. Nørgaard has a lot of Premier League experience, been with Brentford since 2019. So a good depth piece, someone to come off the bench, fits into that deep lying midfield role that Arsenal want. The guy who can break up play a little bit, is very good technically on the ball. And one of his strengths is getting the ball forward to the more attacking players. So yeah, I like the fee. I like everything about it.
Yeah, I think also Arteta is trying to ensure that he has the depth available to try and go at all competitions across all 4 competitions this season. So yeah, with the pending arrival of Martin Zubimendi coming in, Nørgaard coming in as well, it adds that sort of solidity that he's probably looking for. Mixed with Mikel Merino probably dropping a bit deeper once that striker comes in. A fit again Kai Havertz as well. So yeah, I think he's just trying options. To ensure that his squad is as deep as can be. Damon, anything from you on this run?
I got nothing.
That's fair. We can just move straight on to the next one then. And it's another Brentford man. It's Bryan Mbuemo. And I feel like this has gone on forever. But about 2 or 3 hours ago, Graham Bailey, one of the sports journalists in the UK, tweeted that there's been a personal agreement or agreement with the club. So yeah, we can see that those medicals and all of those things taking place over the next week or so. This graphic was done like 2 days ago, so I didn't end up changing it. But yeah, like it's a bit weird that like Brentford are losing players so quickly. Do you think that was a loyalty factor to Thomas Frank, Siad?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been together for quite a while, and with Frank leaving, they might not want to go through that rebuilding phase that comes with a new manager sometimes. And with Brentford's model, they tend to make moves that are more shrewd, as opposed to a guy like Mbuemo might want to now test his skills at a higher level. or be surrounded with better players. I always talk about this where you're only going to get better if you're surrounded by better players. And at Brentford, he is the best, so there's no one to push him. So the time is right to move, and it's the same for a couple of other players. And I think Brentford will reset. They'll get young players in, probably choose a manager that I don't know if they have chosen a manager already, but someone who can then usher them into the next era and build around the next group of guys. So, yeah, I think a couple more guys might go out of the door as well. That's good for them. They've served Brentford well.
Yeah, I think I read an article on Sunday that said up to 7 players may follow Thomas Frank out of the club. So, I mean, whoever is coming in next to take over, he's going to have a very healthy transfer kitty, most likely, to sort of assist him in moving forward. Yeah, just checking the messages in the chat. Ramiz is saying that Brentford want more achievable add-ons, and that's true. I think the deal is like 40 mil upfront, and then the other 20 mil is like add-ons, like certain appearances or certain goals and stuff like that. So that means it's a mistake United has made in the past with offering these players like astronomical contracts, and then they have to pay them because it's not achievable add-ons and stuff like that. So this is like, okay, you have to score an X amount of goals in order to get that extra percentage. So yeah, maybe a step in the right direction. Next one is Antoine Semenyo. I'm not a Spurs fan. Ziad, you aren't a Spurs fan. You are quite the opposite. So unfortunately, Damon, what do you think about this deal?
I was going to make the same joke that I kind of was going to make if you asked me about your previous transfer, which is Tottenham going after Bournemouth guys, United going after Brentford guys, and those are your big signings. What does that tell you about the state of these clubs? I mean, it's not a surprise. One finished 17th, one finished 18th last year, right? Like, what is that? Or 16, 17. Like, what does that tell you about the state of these clubs right now?
Damon, these are Europa League finalists you are speaking about. Like,
You
have some respect, sir. Have some respect.
Honestly, that just kind of puts it all in context for me.
I think
a lot of money for
exactly.
With all due respect, Semenyo is decent. Like, he's a good player.
Yeah,
70 million for Semenyo.
That's a bit wild.
Yeah, both players are kind of valued quite high, which I mean, I think it's a bit of an overpay, but I mean, I can believe anything nowadays. But like, you'd think Semenyo would probably be a player you'd pay around 30 to 40 for, right? That makes a bit more sense. Then I'd rather spend this money on Jamie Gittens for half the price, and I still got money left over to go buy another player or two. And what does
100%.
Semenyo have in his favor? I mean, he's got Premier League experience. He had a good season, but is that enough? Considering what Spurs have, and if you look at Spurs' track record, they've done similar things in the past, right? They bought Brendan Johnson in a similar fashion, and I think you could say Richarlison also coming from Everton, Solanke coming from Bournemouth. If this is where you're going to get your best players from, then I agree with you, Damon. Then you're kind of leaving things a bit short. I think you need to find your best players elsewhere.
It's just, to me, it just shows the ambitions of the club for both of them right now. But what are the goals for the club? Not to finish bottom half of the table? Well, sign guys like that for that amount of money? I'd hope not. But you're Manchester United, you're Tottenham. Those are supposed to be two of the big six in England.
Yeah.
And
Jason makes
a good point. It's the price you pay in the Prem. Yeah, I get it.
Premier League players are normally inflated on that front. But I saw a couple of hours ago that Spurs are now interested in Rodrigo from Real Madrid as well. So I know Arsenal were interested in him. I think the sort of rumors cooled down on that front, but it seems that Spurs are now, maybe it could be either of the two of them, or maybe they even try to go for both of them. They have made Champions League. They have that Europa League winners money. So they have some money in the kitty. And I think Riaz mentioned a few weeks ago that they are one of the most profitable teams in the Premier League as well. So they are financially quite well run. But yeah, staying with Bournemouth, we are going to Milos Kerkez. And Damon, with your previous Klopp allegiance to Liverpool, how do you feel about this transfer? I mean, and Andy Robertson is
31.
probably on his way to Atletico Madrid. So,
well, he's 31 too. So even if he does stay, he's getting up there in age, and Liverpool are essentially really rebuilding a lot of like their aging guard with a lot of really talented players. And Kerkez is decent. He doesn't really like bring that attacking presence that Robertson has, that commanding presence on the ball, but he's a decent left back for Bournemouth. I think 40 is a bit high for him, but like you've been saying, a little Premier League tax, a little Premier League extra bonus in there. And I'll back off a little bit because I was just saying, like, you're getting these good players for Bournemouth, you're getting these players for Bournemouth from Brentford. To me, this is a little different because this isn't like your big transfer of the summer for Liverpool. You did that with Florian Wirtz, and that was the big transfer of the summer throughout all of Europe. You also have Jeremy Frimpong on the other side, who's very good, very quick, and Kerkez brings something a little different. So whether Robertson stays or goes, this is a good player to kind of bring in, hopefully where he has a year to really like get into the Liverpool side. But if he has to be stuck in as the number one left back on the team, he's ready for it.
Yeah, I don't think he'll move to Liverpool if he's not going to be number one. So I think that was something that was probably promised to him already, because at Bournemouth he was probably in the top 3 left backs in the Premier League last season. So I mean, he caught the eye of a lot of people. I saw Real Madrid were interested in him at one point as well. So yeah, I think he's definitely going to Liverpool to be the number one. Ziad, any comments from you?
Yeah, I think he's got good representation, puts himself in a good position to be picked up by these teams. I mean, he spent some time at AC Milan. Paolo Maldini, I mean, handpicked him basically to join the club. And from Milan to AZ Alkmaar, and then ended up at Bournemouth. And then, like you said, the Madrid interest was there sometime during the year. So he's done a good job of catching the right people's eye, and that's led to the move to Liverpool. And Liverpool probably trying to replicate what they did with Robertson in the first place, right? They picked him up from Hull when created. They saw qualities in him that fit into their style of play, and it's probably the same thing with Kerkez.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I think he's going to do a phenomenal job over there, as much as it pains me to say that. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up our transfer segment. Before we move on to the Club World Cup, there was some news last night regarding a certain Olympique Lyonnais in the French Ligue 1. Not anymore, though. They got relegated because of some financial implications. I think that's the best way to put it. Ziad, do you wanna fill us in on that front?
Yeah, look, basically, I don't know what the financial implications were, but I know that John Text is behind it, and he's infamous for all these types of things. Having tried to buy some other clubs, he was the one who was the majority shareholder in Crystal Palace before letting those shares go to Woody Johnson. Johnson and Johnson, like I was telling you guys in the chat the other day. So I think he's going to appeal the decision. I'm almost certain that the appeal won't make a difference, but he'll try anyway. And Lyon have just been in the news all the time for the wrong reasons. It's been sad to see a club of that magnitude drop to this point. But I mean, when these types of owners are coming in and doing these things to the club, using them and buying multiple clubs and using one club to pay the other club stuff and just hiding stuff behind multiple companies, it's not great. And yeah, sad day for French football. But yeah, I don't think they're coming back up with an appeal. And I'm glad he's out of Palace as well, so Palace can play in Europe, which is fantastic. They earned it.
But on that note, Damon, you spoke to me about the New York Jets last night. So what do the Palace fans have to look forward to?
Look forward to. Look forward to.
Man, while Damon's catching his breath, I can tell you, Woody Johnson's son, Brick Johnson, is a character. He makes roster decisions based on Madden ratings. And then they cut players according to that. He's slow on Madden, so he needs 80 rating for speed. Otherwise, he can't play for the Jets. And Damon, you can add to that, obviously, coming from that side.
Yeah. So the New York Jets haven't won a Super Bowl since 1969. They haven't won a playoff game since 2011. They are consistently looked upon as some of the biggest joke teams in the entire league. The players have voted like the organization and the ownership as some of the worst in the entire league. Most recently, if you even just want to bring up the Aaron Rodgers debacle, they signed Aaron Rodgers a couple years ago, who is a very highly regarded quarterback. But yeah, he is pretty old at this point. And yes, Tom Brady was too, but Aaron Rodgers is not Tom Brady. And it all blew back in their face. They were on the precipice of like making the playoffs and doing something. And then it all fell apart. And they, again, didn't make the playoffs over the last 2 seasons. Woody Johnson is the owner of the New York Jets. I told you this yesterday. I'm like, look, you can't really like put all the blame on ownership, because most of the time they're just the ones like paying for things. They're not the ones always making decisions, but they are the ones putting people in power to make said decisions. And there's not a good track record here, let's be honest. So what do Crystal Palace fans have to look forward to? Just cherish that FA Cup as long as you can, guys.
Yeah, and I mean, off the back of that, like, it seems like Palace is going to see the back of Eberechi Eze sometime during this transfer window as well, and he's probably their talisman at the moment. So yeah, and Mark Gay as well. I think he might be going to Liverpool during this window as well. So yeah, cherish that FA Cup win for sure. Yeah. Onto the Club World Cup, and Damon, you had the privilege to attend one of the games, an exciting 0-0 draw. Tell us all about that.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes the 0-0 draws can be exciting. That one, to me, was, at least because I saw like one of the best double saves I've ever seen in my entire life, whether it was offside or foul or not. It was still pretty cool to see a very solid double save of that quality. There's a lot being talked about this World Cup. So if either of you want to interject, give me like questions from the American side here, because the real reasons we're talking about this is because the actual World Cup is going to be taking place in the United States a year from now in most of these stadiums that we are seeing throughout this tournament. My biggest takeaways are that this isn't a shocker. Like, the South American fans are incredible. The Northern African fans, a lot of the ones from Morocco and Egypt, are also incredible. And shout out Urawa, who came all the way from Japan and showed up for their entire group stage game as well. They were great. The weather is going to be an issue next year. We're also in the midst of like a crazy heat wave. I just told the both of you, like before we came on, that is like 101 degrees outside. That is not normal here. It's usually in the high 80s, low 90s. That's still pretty toasty. My club, Borussia Dortmund, and also yesterday, Bayern Munich. But Bayern had a little bit more of an excuse because it was like actually really hot. Dortmund were in the locker room watching the first half of their game when it was 86 degrees Fahrenheit. To me, that's a little soft. I'm not going to lie. Like, 86 is not that bad, guys. Like, it's warm. Don't get me wrong. It's warm. But it's not like we have to sit inside type of warm. It's not that crazy. The all grass pitches, yes. Even the ones in the stadiums that are not typically grass, they're turf, they are putting in grass for this tournament and, of course, for the World Cup as well. There's also at least 2 indoor stadiums next summer with Dallas and Atlanta. So that'll help with the weather. There will be weather delays like we are seeing already. We get thunderstorms in the summer all throughout the country. That will be a problem, guaranteed. The atmosphere, though, just about this Club World Cup, because I went into it like optimistic and skeptic at the same time, because I'm like, how are these teams going to be taking this seriously? Are the fans going to be taking this seriously? Like, this is almost like a dream idea. I feel like a lot of us have kind of had at some point, where it's like, what if we generally took some of the best teams throughout the world, not just like the old Club World Cup, where it was just you get one per confederation and it just came down to CONMEBOL versus UEFA all the time? What if we saw an actual tournament play out, right? And that's what this is. In my opinion, if I were to make a few changes just for this iteration of it, I would do 2 or 3 things. One, I would actually say a lot less teams. I would cut the field down in half. I don't think there needs to be as, like, with all due respect to Auckland City, I do not need to see an amateur team in this tournament. That's not what the World Cup. It's about the best, right? I'd like to see them maybe have a proper qualification match, whether it's like the winners from Oceania, the best team in Oceania versus like maybe the second or third team in Asia, have them go off against each other, and the winner of that gets that last spot type of thing. Like to give them a chance to come in.
Just to jump in there with the Auckland City, I think there's some quirk that they need to figure out there, because the best teams in New Zealand actually play in the Asia region, if I'm not mistaken. So the best club teams from New Zealand don't even play in Oceania or however you say it. So they need to probably fix that part of it, because that's how Auckland City ended up there. And I think they can do that probably, you know, like you're saying, a couple of changes here and there, and they'll definitely be able to improve it.
Yeah, it's because the A League doesn't actually, like, the A League is a part of the Asian Federation, which is a shame anyway, because there isn't actually an A League team in this tournament, but Auckland City is, which is just funny to me. The atmosphere is fine. I kept telling AF this at this specific game, it felt like at least on the Dortmund end, it was so much summer friendly vibes. I've gone to several Dortmund summer friendly games here in the States, and we have our American Dortmund fans, but there's also a lot of Germans that come over and just kind of treat this as a vacation. And there were a lot of Germans that came over and just sitting, drinking, talking as the game's going on. It was like just very casual, very summer friendly. The Brazilian, the South American fans, full passion, full force on that end. So it was like a weird little, like, one side really cares because it's about pride, and the other side is like, we're here. So like it felt like the play on the field has kind of been that too throughout pretty much most of the tournament. There's really only a handful of UEFA teams that feel like they like are trying, like they really care. The rest of them are just kind of like, we're here. Maybe once the knockouts come around and the tournament goes on, we'll care a little bit more, which, you know, that's bound to happen. Let me talk about the attendances, because it does go back a bit to a few things. I do not think next year the attendances will be an issue, because that's the World Cup. A lot of Americans, a lot of diehard American soccer fans are literally not going to this tournament because they too, as many Europeans, see it as a cash grab. I only went to this game because the night before I got like these tickets at one point. If I was telling you about this, they were like $90, $100, $120 just to get in. Yeah. And I'm like, no, that's crazy. Just for this thing? No. Night before I got a ticket for $30. Right. So it's like I got it for a big discount. World Cup, I do not see that being an issue at all. Just to go on with this World Cup too, I do think like they overbooked themselves. They have this in stadiums that they should not be having these games in. That Dortmund Fluminense game should not have been at MetLife Stadium. That thing should have been down the road at Red Bull Arena, because there were 34,000 people there. It's just that stadium holds 70K plus. It's a huge stadium. So when you're not even technically filling up half of it, it looks tiny, even though it's still 34,000 down the road. Red Bull Arena holds 25K, would have been a sellout. Do you get free hot dogs for that price? No. And the beer is just as expensive.
In the stadium, the concessions are always very.
Yeah. Do you think that they are treating the Club World Cup as sort of a research exercise or a curtain raiser to the World Cup next year of which stadiums to use for which countries and how? Because I mean, say for example, you go into a 90,000 seater stadium and you'd have like two random countries playing together that people haven't heard of. So obviously for games like that, you'd want to go for the smaller stadiums that you know would probably even be half packed.
Yeah, but let me preface, like next year, there really are no smaller stadiums. Like the stadiums that they are having in these games in this year, like some of the smaller MLS stadiums that most of these games should have been in the first place, those will not be in the running next year. It's going to be all big boy stadiums. Because it's a World Cup. You got to sell as many tickets as possible. They're all like in Texas, that thing's going to be Jerry World, AT&T Stadium, Dallas Cowboys, right? West Coast, same thing. Big, giant capacity arenas. MetLife in New York, it's all the big boys. Same thing up in Boston, or Boston, quote unquote. Foxborough. It's not really Boston at all. That'll be another 65K huge stadium. It's all going to be big stadiums. But they are using this, I can definitely tell, as a test run for next year, sort of like how the Confederations Cup used to be, where it's like, okay, we're getting the facilities ready. They know what to expect. They know how to get things run. This is like a dress rehearsal in a way.
Yeah.
Glorified dress rehearsal.
We have a question over here. If one comes to watch a World Cup game, which stadiums the city are a must-see?
Atlanta. Atlanta is... The stadium there is insane. And you'll always luck out because that's an indoor/outdoor. It's a retractable roof. But that thing is like one of the wildest looking venues you'll ever see in your life. It's like a giant hexagon. It's air conditioned on the inside. The roof above has a whole bunch of triangles that they all come together. It almost looks like the Death Star in a way. It's kind of wild. New York as well. You can't ever go wrong just being New York. Although, so the game I went to was at MetLife. Stadium's technically not in New York. It's in New Jersey. And to get there, it's a little bit of a pain. However, they did pretty well. In my opinion, they did pretty well on directing people on how to get to the stadium, which is very important. Yeah, I'd say those are really the two that I can think of. I mean, you don't need to go to Foxborough. It's fine. That's in the middle of the woods in Massachusetts, nowhere near Boston.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions for Damon in the chat, you guys can go ahead and ask that. We are going to be talking about the results of the tournament so far, and the round of 16 games that are already set for the next few days. Ziad, what have you I just want to speak about Sundowns real quick because they played against Dortmund over the weekend. It was a very entertaining game. Game finished 4-3. I was chatting to Damon majority of the time throughout the game. But yeah, from your point of view, Ziad, how did you find the game? How do you find Sundowns' performance so far in the World Cup?
No, I think it's cool. Like I said before on the show, it's a good opportunity for these lesser known teams to put themselves on the map. And Sundowns have done that really well. I think they handled this opportunity well in terms of they did a couple of good interviews before the tournament. So I think Patrice Motsepe sat down with Marcotti, Gabriel Marcotti before the tournament. There was something that ran on the Athletic as well with a profile about Sundown. So they kind of they did I would say the tour in the media to get people to know about them. And then the best part of it is that they backed it up with performances. I mean, they played really well in all the games they've played so far. They showed, some attacking prowess, and they got a couple of good players. Obviously, Graham Reyners has done well, scoring so many goals, some offside, some not. And there's another player, I think it's Ribeiro, who's also done really well for them. So it shows that there are lots of good players out there, good teams. They just need a platform, to put themselves on the map.
Yeah, and the fact that we are, or our league is categorized as being so far beyond or behind so many European leagues, and the fact that maybe Dortmund wasn't taking the game seriously or the tournament seriously, but the result still speaks. 4-3, we still came up, we still had to perform, we still had to put the ball at the back of the net. So yeah, I'm super proud of them, and they have a huge task tonight against Fluminense. I think it's a must-win game for them to go through to the next round. Damon, any comments from you about Sundowns?
Yeah, I'd say this. It's winnable for them after how Fluminense played against Ulsan, who Ulsan in their first game, Mamelodi looked like they were really taking care of business against them. And then here come, the South Korean club against Fluminense, who was giving Dortmund trouble the entire game, really should have won that game. And they surprised me in a good way. And that's what I wanted to see about this tournament was, hey, how many people outside of Europe like have watched Botafogo, right? How many people outside of Japan have really watched Uruguay? And you really get to see like the quality that these teams get to, and it showcases the leagues as well. Unfortunately for me, the MLS teams have been pretty bad outside of Miami, which is hilarious to me because Miami in MLS is not that good.
Yeah.
So it's you get some funny things like that, but that's football. So Mamelodi, they surprised me, and I was really pleasantly like they have a chance tonight to qualify. It's in their own hands. If they win, they're in.
100%. And you spoke about Botafogo, and another part owner for that team is John Textor. And there are 7 Botafogo players that didn't actually come to America because they are striking because they haven't been getting paid. So just an interesting side note on that one. If we look forward to the fixtures coming up this weekend in the round of 16, some of the fixtures that have already been set, we have Benfica against Chelsea, we have Flamengo against Bayern Munich, and we have PSG against Lionel Messi. That is going to be the box office one of the weekend, surely.
They couldn't fix that any better.
100%. They wanted that to happen so badly, and it just did. Ziad, your thoughts on those 3 fixtures?
Yeah, I think PSG will take care of Miami. I don't see it really being much of a battle. Benfica Chelsea could be interesting. I think Di Maria's been on some good form, even though he's like 37. He's been really good, and Nicolas Otamendi turning back the clock there, and against a young Chelsea side, they could be kind of interesting. But I think it's shaping up to become quite interesting with the way these round of 16 matches are going to take place. And I think something that you guys have touched on a bit, and some things in the chat also, that different teams are at different stages in their preparation, in their seasons. For example, the Brazilian teams in the middle of their season. And I think this first edition isn't going to be the big one in terms of, you're going to say Dortmund played a B team, then Madrid rotated and Bayern rotated, and this team did that. You're going to hear that quite a bit. But I think as the Club World Cup goes on into the years and then make some good tweaks and make some adjustments, I think it will get to a point where the matches are competitive, and all it's going to take is a couple of upsets, man. We need some more South American teams to win. Maybe Sundowns go through. We see a good performance from a team that nobody expected, and suddenly people sit up because they don't want to be embarrassed and lose to a lesser known team per se on the world stage. So I'm quite excited for where it's going. And yeah, I think no matter which team you are, no matter which club, no matter which players, once you get on the field, it's an opportunity for you to do something special. So you got to take it.
Yeah, 100%. Damon, you want to speak a bit about Inter Miami before we wrap up?
What do you want me to say about them? It's Inter Messi FC. It's it's a bunch of old guys, Messi and friends, whatever you want to say. That team is kind of hilarious to watch. Messi, even at his age, even though he's a little injured, honestly, and they brought it up in our broadcast, is that like he's still got it, man. And Suarez, though, which is hilarious, because like Suarez, you're like, oh, he is so done, and then he goes out last match, scores a banger, and it's like, never mind, he still has a little bit of something left in him. But
yeah, I think they can turn it on when they want to, and that's the thing. Like in the MLS, I don't think they're motivated enough to turn it on. But on this stage, they're like, they turn it on for some reason, and yeah, I just don't know why they can't stitch it all together in the MLS.
Because a lot of things in MLS is it's a long season, and it does not matter after a certain point whether you're second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh or eighth. So long as you're in that top 2/3, baby, you make the playoffs. And once when you're in those playoffs, anything can happen. So you're
not going to get relegated.
Well, yeah, that's another part. But like they're not like a relegation fodder team. Like they're not. They used to be like that level of bad before Messi arrived. But something with that team that I want to see more of is just like some of the more MLS guys to just like be better. Fafa Picault, I completely forgot, still plays soccer. Still plays the sport, and whenever he gets subbed on, I'm like, oh yeah, you're still around. And then I see him with a touch, and I'm like, I don't know why though, because he's not that good. But there's a few younger guys on that team who have a little bit of something. But that team is just hilarious to watch because it's Messi and friends. You get a free, they guys, pass the ball around. You get a nice through ball where Suarez just can't catch up to it eventually. You get a free kick from outside the box. It's like, oh, here we go, Messi goal. And that's Inter Miami.
You still have Sergio Busquets in the middle, though, and he still looks pretty solid from the moments that I've watched in the first two games. He still looks pretty solid. But it's going to be interesting to see how he goes up against arguably the best midfield in club football at the moment.
And PSG are giving a dang about this tournament. Yeah. So it's not like they're going to go in against like maybe a Chelsea or whoever who's just kind of, or get Letty out one point who got knocked out, which is hilarious, who are kind of going in and like, whatever. Like PSG care. Bayern Munich are showing they care, even though they lost. But they were pushing yesterday. There's a few European teams that show that they really are putting a lot into it, not just with the team selections. Like Dortmund's team selections is a full team, but the team isn't that good. And also they're exhausted from a second half push just to get them in the Champions League. So I've genuinely been enjoying this tournament more than expected. I think the quality of play has been pretty good for the most part. Every now and then I'll see like, but like I'm kind of used to it. I watch American soccer. I watch second division American soccer. Like I'm used to some really bad football. So anytime I see a little bit of quality, it's like, ooh.
Damon, the resident Hartford. Is it Hartford?
Oh, Hartford Athletic, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Damon, the resident supporter. I think he even has a gif of himself on Google holding up a sign at a Hartford game. So yeah,
it's the Ted Lasso Believe sign. I stole that from someone else in the stands because it was pouring that day, and we're looking for our first win of the season 9 games into the season, and they won that game. It was magical. It's like one of their 4 wins that year.
Yeah. But I think that is us wrap for today. Do we have any questions in the chat from anybody before we close out? I don't think I see anything. Ziad, I wasn't really keeping an eye on the chat. So
where do I see American soccer going in the next 3 years, man? If that's not a question I hear every single year, man. That depends. If I'm talking about U.S. national team or am I talking about the league? The league had been on the best trajectory I'd seen it been on from 2018, like 2016, 17, 18, 19. The league was skyrocketing. The quality of the league was going up. The players that were coming in wasn't just like old has-beens. Like they were getting good young players, like we just mentioned earlier, Miguel Almiron, like a guy like that who could go over to the Prem and do something with his career, and he did. And then it just disappeared.
Yeah.
It just disappeared, unfortunately. Less and less people are just watching the league now for a plethora of reasons, even though it's in a very important period of time when you have arguably the greatest player of all time in the league. So it's a challenge. On U.S. men's national team standpoint, we're in a Gold Cup year. As all of this is going on, and we're still getting like 30, 40,000 people to attend these Club World Cup games, we have a Gold Cup also being played here in the United States where 0 of our best players are in it. And Mauricio Pochettino is the manager. And it is a mess. And we are 1 year away from the World Cup, where we crashed out, don't forget, last year of Copa America in the group stage with a full team.
But I think this is a challenge with international sport and clubs, right? And the same's happening in some of the other sporting codes, I guess, where the top American players are now playing in Europe. So they're coming off a grueling season, and a lot of them want to take time off. Maybe they've had injuries, there's fatigue and so on. And they're kind of prioritizing the World Cup, which is strange because in terms of prioritizing the World Cup, you actually want to play more games together so you can get some sort of rhythm as a team. But at the same time, physically, if you're not capable, then there's that thing that's out of balance basically. And like you said with Pochettino, he's a really good coach, but he hasn't had time to work with these players and get them all together and run them through a couple of sessions, because one decided to take a holiday, another guy's taking off, a couple of guys are injured or whatever the case is. And you see this a lot in international sport, especially nowadays. And from the basketball, I mean, I use that, and baseball to some degree as well, where the primary teams the guys play for, their franchises, they tend to retire early from the international teams, or they just rock up for Olympics or World Cups. And in between, the years in between, you don't get to build that rhythm. So, it is a bit of a tough job, because ideally you want your players playing in the best league. So America's gotten to that point where they have Christian Pulisic, they've got Weston McKinney, they've got a couple of other players, all scattered around the different leagues. But then at the same time, you can't get them together for a United States men's national team training camp or competition. So how they figure that out, I don't know. And I think a lot of countries have the same issue, or when it comes to this type of thing.
I think I've discussed this with some friends of mine. I'll do a little rapid fire of some of the questions thrown out after this. But I think some of the biggest issue when it comes to our best players and like participating, and look, I get it. Christian came out and said he's exhausted. He may be dealing with some injuries and he needs a summer off in order to make sure he's 100% next summer. I completely understand that. Unfortunately, it just seems like there's some miscommunication going on between him and Pochettino. So that's where things get like a little weird. It's challenging. Let me just quickly go through this. I'll get to that one in a second, AF. But is having a World Cup helping football? Like, I assume having it in the US helping it. It can't hurt it next year. It's going to put a lot more eyes on it. It's going to get a lot more of the general American sports fan, the general American, to watch the game, to get into the game. I know a lot of people who've attended their first soccer game at some of these Club World Cups when like a Brazilian team is in town, and they get to see like a taste, like we know, like we've seen the atmospheres in Brazil and what it is like. This is just like a little taste of it, right? So they get to experience a little bit of it. Why is Richmond FC not in the Club World Cup? Because the USL needs to get some more love, get some more love. I'll quickly shout out USL is implementing promotion relegation within its own league structure within the next few years, which is very exciting. It's the first time in the US we are having pro rel in any sport at any level. I'll bring up the Bassett Mihalovic question. You saw them. They're pretty good. Well, we have better players in Europe, and that's the reason why. Because what I was going to mention earlier, a lot of the problems with our best players, with Christian Pulisic, with Weston McKinney, and so
Timothy
on.
Weah. Yeah.
And Timmy Weah, their jobs are not at stake. They don't have to play in this tournament. They know if they show up, they're starting, right? They like, that no one is coming after your job. The goalkeeping position right now, a little different. It's why our three best goalkeepers are at the Gold Cup right now. That's separate. But Christian, Weah, for the most part, McKennie, guys like that, they don't have to worry about this. So this isn't like a necessity to be like, if I don't play in this tournament, I lose my job. And the last one, can I say money is slowly spoiling the sport in the States? At this point, no, because we have a salary cap with a massive asterisk, because there's a lot of weird rules in Major League Soccer about how the money system works and what you can and can't do. But long story short, we have a very weird salary cap that refrains teams like Atlanta United, like Inter Miami, like Seattle, like LAFC to spend everything to get the best players like we see in like the Saudi leagues. And it creates a little bit more parity in the league, and that's the idea around that. So I can't necessarily say that. They don't play as much as other class and most players, though. I think this Gold Cup has proven that MLS players are nowhere near our best European players. And that's not even just this Gold Cup. we lost 4-0 to Switzerland in the first half. Like, gave up 4 goals in the first half to Switzerland, right? And that's with, our quote unquote best MLS players. It's night and day. There's a very staunch difference between our best players and our best domestic players.
Cool. Thank you so much, Damon, for offering us an inside look into the MLS and American football, or American soccer, rather. Saying American football sounds weird. But yeah, if there are any other questions in the chat while we are busy doing the outro, then you can just pop that in. But yeah, until while that is happening, thank you so much, Damon, for showing up tonight. It's a pleasure as always. Thank you, Ziad, as well. We are at Sportycast on all social media platforms. That is Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere you think. We are at Sportycast, the same handle. Give this video a like, give it a share, spread it far and wide, tell your mom about it. But yeah, Damon, where can the people find you on the socials?
Nowhere. I'm kidding. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I'll just talk about mostly anything. I think it's like Damon Gray Blue Sky, whatever that weird handle is. And you can find me on Instagram too, where I just post a lot of me being at soccer games, at football games, and other concerts. Yeah, a lot of indie rock concerts. So that's at Damon Graham.
Cool. Ziad, where can the people find you?
As always, I'm everywhere updating the socials with all the latest sports news. So a couple of things we got to look forward to. Tomorrow would be a recap of the NBA draft. I think that's taking place overnight. Obviously, a couple of results from the Club World Cup. We've got some good golf this weekend. So a lot of interesting things coming up.
Cool. Yeah, just a shout out to Ziad. He posts all of these news and sports results diligently every day. So yeah, shout out for that. It's really cool. If you like pop onto any of our socials, you'll just check all of those updates. That's ranges from baseball, basketball, cricket, soccer, football, even golf, because Ziad and Jason are huge golf heads. So yeah, we covered all over at Sportycast, but yeah, I am at AFParker642 on every single social media platform.
Can I quickly defend the full stadiums at the Club World Cup? It is noon on a Monday. for like Dortmund Fluminense.
Is that?
Yeah, no, I was just kidding around about that. I think it is silly, man. Like what they're doing with the scheduling, and it's happening in other sports as well, especially cricket, where the matches are scheduled to suit the TV times in the markets where they want the most coverage. And that makes no sense because you need to get the people to the stadiums. I mean, growing up, I remember the Korea Japan World Cup where you watch the games the time it came on. Even US, I think it was 94. I remember that World Cup, seeing games on late at night and during the early hours of the morning. And obviously, as a fan of American sport being based in South Africa and now the UAE, the time zones don't work out, man. If I want to watch something live, I've got to be up in the morning. So if you're a true sports fan, you'll make it work, and it comes around. Like 1 year it's going to be in Europe, the FIFA World Cup, and then 4 years later it will be somewhere else. So, I think it's not great that they prioritize the TV markets, even though that's where the money is coming from, but it just hurts the fans, And it's the same with Diamond. You can maybe add on this stuff. So the F1 that is like recently happened when they had the race.
Yeah, I think we are slowly losing you in audio. You had this like sort of volume that was just like degrading by the second. I thought it would get better, but then I just couldn't hear you anymore after a point. But yeah, like the last thing I heard was you speaking about F1, and then I couldn't hear at all anymore after that. Okay, he's done. Cool.
Juice.
Yeah, but yeah, that's all from us tonight. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thanks for all your questions. Thanks for all your interactions. We appreciate it as always, and we will Catch you guys next week, same time, same place. I'm a 4343.